kind of you, Chairman Coons. I appreciate it. I'd first like to turn to Dr. Carpenter, talk about Nord Stream 2. Dr. Carpenter, you've previously said, and I want to quote this, to make sanctions against Russia work, the United States and its allies need to dispense with symbolic gestures and impose stronger sanctions that will have an immediate economic impact. Dr. Carpenter, I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. And in 2019, you stated the following, quote, the European Union has unfortunately lacked the political will to implement its own anti-monopoly rules and stop Nord Stream 2 from coming to fruition, which means the U.S. Congress is now the only body that can prevent the pipeline from being built. Dr. Carpenter, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement too. Yet in May, the Biden administration waived U.S. sanctions against Nord Stream 2 AG and sanctions against its chief executive. And last week, Gazprom announced that it has now completed the pipeline. So, Dr. Carpenter, my question is this. With the pipeline now complete, what do you feel will be the impact on energy security in Europe?
Well, thank you for the question, Senator. I am very concerned by the geopolitical consequences of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. This is a project by the Kremlin that brings no new gas molecules from Russia to Europe, but merely bypasses Ukraine and the Central European countries and delivers that very same gas directly to Germany, thereby giving the Kremlin enormous leverage over Ukraine, Poland, Slovakia, and other countries in Central Europe. Going forward, if I am confirmed, I will work to reinvigorate the second dimension of the OSCE, the economic and environmental dimension that deals with energy security. And I'll seek to work very closely with my friend Amos Hochstein, who is the senior advisor to the Secretary on energy security, to build resilience for our partners, and particularly Ukraine, in terms of energy supply, so that Russia cannot continue to use energy supplies as a form of political weaponization of energy and energy coercion. And last thing I'll say on this, Senator, I think it's very important that the United States continue to be ready to use all of the authorities contained within PISA and CATSA, which are the laws of the land when it comes to this.
Yeah. Well, I know the OSCE will have many divergent opinions in terms of Nord Stream 2, and I wish you the best with that, Dr. Carpenter. Dr. Kang, can I turn with you now to focus on North Korea? We worked enormously hard with Japan, with the UN Security Council to impose three successively more biting sets of economic sanctions on North Korea. They had an immediate and very, very important effect on North Korea's economy. Yet China has continued to undercut our position there. And at the same time, North Korea has persisted in working in secret on their nuclear program. And there's an example I'd like to highlight, and that's according to non-governmental experts, North Korea is producing uranium at a covert uranium enrichment facility known by the U.S. intelligence community as the Kangsan enrichment site. It's not surprising that North Korea would build secret facilities to produce fissile material, but it poses significant proliferation challenges, especially considering Pyongyang's previous efforts to provide Syria with a nuclear reactor. If confirmed, you're going to be responsible for spearheading the State Department's efforts to reduce WMD-related threats by promoting bilateral and multilateral initiatives to prevent proliferation. So my question is, Dr. Kang, if confirmed, will you commit to providing regular updates to the committee about the administration's efforts to address North Korea's declared and undeclared nuclear and missile facilities and programs?
Absolutely, Senator. I have a long relationship with our lead on re-engagement with North Korea, Ambassador Sung Kim. I have extensive relationship in the government Republic of Korea, as well as Japan. This would be a top priority. As you know, North Korea is awfully a hardened state, and as you rightly point out, there's always this escape valve of China. China made a decision some time ago that it's tolerable for North Korea to have nuclear weapons as long as it is a buffer state. So it is a difficult proposition, but I believe the president is on a right path with regard to calibrate a practical approach. And this is something that Ambassador Sung Kim and myself, during the Bush administration, have some practical experience in.
I've had the privilege of working with Ambassador Sung Kim as well, and I look forward to continue to working with both of you as we address this challenge. Mr. Chairman, if you'd permit me, I have just a follow-on question, if I might, for Assistant Secretary Crocker.
Of course. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. Assistant Secretary Crocker, I want to focus on China's growing influence among international organizations. You mentioned this in your opening remarks. And while you served as the Assistant Secretary for International Organizations during the Obama administration, China took over leadership of multiple international organizations and staffed them with Chinese nationals. But in 2017, our posture toward China's malign behavior changed. And if confirmed, I hope that you'll continue that posture developed during the previous administration to continue to counter China's influence in global institutions. And further, I fully expect you to fight for American influence by supporting qualified candidates in leadership positions and look to increase positions for Americans, such as greater position in the Junior Professional Officers Program at the UN. And as you mentioned, representation like at the ITU. But I hope to see much more participation there. And so my question is, if confirmed, what actions will you take to make certain that qualified United States candidates are in leadership positions at UN bodies in Geneva?
Thank you for the question, Senator. And I think, as you noted, this is a strategic priority for China, and it needs to be a strategic priority for the United States. And indeed, the State Department and the administration are making a concerted effort, working with like-minded partners and allies, to ensure that we are able to both identify and then robustly support qualified, viable, independent candidates for leadership positions in international organizations, be they American candidates or other like-minded candidates. Mm-hmm. And if confirmed, this will be a top priority for me. It is an effort that I fully support, and I would look to use my role and the role and the resources of the U.S. mission in Geneva, working closely with the State Department and across the interagency to ensure that we are best positioned diplomatically and in terms of resources to support the candidacies. You mentioned the ITU, where of course there is an American candidate up for Secretary General for an election that will take place in September of 2022. And if confirmed, I would consider this to be one of my highest priorities on getting out to Geneva to support that candidacy and ensure that the mission is doing everything it can to support the candidacy. And I think, again, this looking at both election for leadership positions, but also, as you mentioned, making sure that we are strategically focused on ensuring that we are looking also at staffing up and down the system. The Chinese are doing that, as you note, from the junior political officer level all the way up. And we need to do that. And if confirmed, I would look forward to working with Congress to make sure, and this committee to make sure, that we have the appropriate resources to do that.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that, Assistant Secretary Crocker. Thank you. And I'll be submitting a question for the record for Mr. Scheinman about China and the NPT. I'm very concerned about their obligations as signatory to that treaty and the fact that they're not living up to those obligations. That will be in the QFRs coming forward, Mr. Scheinman. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for indulging me with some extra time.